This is 5 on your side at 10. Focused on you.
It wasn't an accidental shooting. Dalton was shot in the back of the head.
More than a week ago, a 15-year-old boy was shot and killed after a gun went off inside a home in South St. Louis. Police called it an accident, but the teen's grandparents disagree. Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Kelly Jackson. The controversial shooting happened in South City. Tonight, 5 on your side's Robert Townsend spoke with the young victim's family.
He was an energetic kid. He was a good person.
A devastated Dawn and Matthew Coster have many questions after the sudden death of their 15-year-old grandson, Dalton Piacek.
We haven't gotten not a phone call from the police.
Police say last Thursday afternoon they were called to this home on Missouri Avenue in South City to investigate a shooting. Witnesses told police Dalton was trying to load a gun when it fired and a bullet hit him. The 9th grader died at a hospital. His maternal grandparents say at the time of the shooting, a 14-year-old girl and a 17-year-old boy were also inside the home.
Then the boy dropped his phone and his ID and ran. The girl stayed around.
A St. Louis police spokesperson sent us an email saying more than a week later, that incident is still being handled as an accidental shooting.
It wasn't an accidental shooting. Dalton was shot in the back of the head. Dalton couldn't bend his arm to shoot himself.
That's because she says at the time her grandson, who was shot on the right side of his head, was recovering from a broken right elbow.
Doctor said that that wasn't accidental. That wasn't self-inflicted.
And we have not gotten a medical examiner's report. This is what the physician told me upon arriving at the hospital.
On February 10th, the family will gather for a memorial and honor Dalton. Meantime, his grandparents say they won't stop until they find the answers they're looking for.
If we don't start hearing something from the police, then I'm gonna turn it over to our attorneys.
Robert Townsend, 5 on your side.
Sadly, this is the family's second tragedy in less than a week. On Sunday, police found Dalton's uncle, Micah Coster, brutally beaten in a backyard in North St. Louis. He also died at a hospital. A man is facing murder charges in that case. Just hours ago, a woman was shot in the head in North St. Louis City. Police say it happened just before 5 tonight in North Vandevetter and Cote Brilliant. Officers found the woman, who they say was in her 30s, unconscious. She was pronounced dead at the scene. We will keep you updated as we get more information on the investigation. A St. Louis police cruiser was involved in a crash a few hours ago in South City's Carondelet neighborhood. It happened just before 6:30 on Minnesota Avenue. The front passenger side of the cruiser was damaged. One car was turned on its side. A third parked car was also damaged. A sergeant at the scene said no one was hurt. This is the 4th crash involving St. Louis police over the past 2 months. Tonight, a South City man is facing murder charges after police say he strangled his wife and beat her with a hammer. Officers arrived at the home on Lee Shore Drive Thursday morning after Robert Leverens called 911 to report that he killed his wife. There, they found Kathleen Leverens dead in the bedroom. Robert Leverens is in custody and being held on a $1 million bond. On the same day, local domestic violence organizations like the Diamond Diva Empowerment Foundation met with Congresswoman Cori Bush.
It affects everybody, even hearing that it happened to your neighbor, just like in this situation. It affects those neighbors. It affects people in the community. And if we can come together a little bit more, to see what's going on, address what's going on, provide resources for those individuals, we can possibly curb this epidemic that we are facing here in St. Louis.
If you would like to reach out to the Diamond Diva Foundation, the number 314-328-4348. Let's talk our weather. Poxitani Phil says we are getting an early spring, and it looks like we'll get a taste of it next week. Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell has our weather first forecast. Scott, how accurate do you think the little guy really was?
Well, you know, we don't talk really about the rodent's accuracy, but
yes.
At any point,
it's all in fun.
Yeah, we are going to be looking at warmer than average temperatures. We know that. Even today, despite the fact that we were rather gloomy this afternoon, we managed to be above average in St. Louis. Looking out right now into Hidden Valley, well, they pretty much kind of wrap things up for this evening, but yes, they still have snow on there. Most of the skiers have come down, the lifts have stopped. They closed at 10, I believe, tonight, but they'll be open tomorrow and this weekend, and yes, that's a nice base of snow on the ground. You don't see the low clouds over St. Louis from this viewpoint, so let's get a little different perspective here. See that area of yellow? It's just over the city of St. Louis, really over South St. Louis and then back to the west. Areas to the north have cleared out just a little bit. So we'll call it limited weekend sunshine. Clouds are thicker certainly on Sunday. We do have a chance for some fog overnight. Still kind of murky out there, but it's mainly dry for us locally until Wednesday. We'll show you who gets the chance at rain this weekend in a few minutes, Kelly.
All right, see you then, Scott. If you know a college student awaiting word about financial aid, you are not alone. Challenges with the federal application for aid are leading to delays on when colleges can award scholarships. As 5 on Your Side's Brent Solomon explains, it finds one local university thinking outside of the blocks.
And this is a time that should be full of joy and hope and possibility, and not the anxiety and fear that people are feeling.
A newly revised free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA, is supposed to be available for college students in need of financial help.
So a number of people can't even complete it through no fault of their own.
Faith Sandler with the Scholarship Foundation of St. Louis says glitches in the federal system are causing headaches, delaying colleges from being able to tell students how much money they could get. Something that could mean the difference on which college a prospective student chooses, or whether a student can return to campus.
Typically, most schools are sending out all of those financial aid letters that students need March, April.
That's after the school receives a student's FAFSA information from the government. Right now, the government is saying it won't be able to send that information over until mid-March.
This is going to compress into a very tight window the most important financial decision of their lives.
And we've decided to take matters into our own hands.
Over at St. Louis University, administrators are sidestepping the FAFSA for now and creating an internal application.
We will mimic the federal application. We will be able to provide an award that we will stand behind. And when a family can file their FAFSA, we will ask them to do that.
SLU's goal is to notify students by the end of this month of how much money they'll qualify for. Since not every school is doing this, families everywhere find themselves hoping they won't be left in the dark.
For those students who cannot afford to pay the whole cost, this is everything.
Brent Solomon, 5 on Your Side.
And Sandler encourages students to be patient and stick with the process. Tonight, the University of Missouri and the University of Illinois are both responding to the FAFSA dilemma. You can read their responses on KSDK.com. American retaliatory strikes in the Middle East have begun. Today, the U.S. launched attacks on more than 85 Iran-backed targets in Iraq and Syria. They included control and intelligence centers and weapon storage facilities. All this came just hours after President Biden and the First Lady received the remains of the 3 fallen soldiers killed in a drone attack in Jordan earlier this week. The fallen sergeants, 46-year-old William Rivers, 24-year-old Kennedy Sanders, and 23-year-old Breonna Moffett. Sanders and Moffett were promoted to the rank of sergeant after their deaths. Jefferson County police are on the lookout for expired tags, what's causing the crackdown, and how they're cutting drivers a little slack on their legal fees.